Okay, let's get going. Thanks everyone for joining today. Oh, look at that. Someone set up a lower third. I did an animation. It's been a little while since I had all that stuff set up, but here we are. Okay, as you can see, I'm Hamish, Community Director. Now that's gone away. I think I can bring it back, but here we go. And we also need to loop that background. Teething issues and all that. Okay, so like I mentioned, this is going to be our first ever Fellows Assembly. Welcome, welcome. Very, very happy to have you here. Yeah, this is a format that I hope we can do a lot going forward, and it's really important to me that we have as many places to directly connect with our community where we can, rather than like talking at you all the time, which is fun, you know, I don't mind doing that, but we can also kind of have a conversation with you and hear from you. So I think that's fun. I kind of feel like it's I don't know, I have this like romantic vision of it being like a high fantasy themed town hall type thing. So hopefully people can catch that vibe. So actually, let me just be a responsible person and close this door a little bit. Okay. So, I mean, the rules, I'm very, very aware, like I've mentioned before, that the thing with this is that we're kind of putting ourselves out there, and I'm putting a lot of trust in all of you as a community, which I think you deserve until proven otherwise. So the rules are very clear. Like it's a very clear mirror of what our Discord rules are in general. So, you know, just show respect to your fellow gamers, but also to myself. And, you know, in the future when we have devs on here, we would expect the same. We're going to be talking about fellowship. You know, I'm aware that some feedback might be related to other games. That's totally reasonable, but, you know, we're here to talk about fellowship. Obviously, as our Discord rules state, racism, sexism, bigotry, you know it when you see it. You'll be completely out of here if this starts to devolve into anything that isn't, you know, reasonable. I was going to say positive there. Look, we don't need all positive feedback. I think I mentioned in the thing, we want to hear about your good and not so good experiences with this because we need constructive criticism. That's what the devs are definitely here for. Okay. Again, I'll reiterate for the people that are joining late, this is a listening session today. In future, we'll do Q&As and that sort of stuff. I won't be giving any news today. I know there's a lot of questions about early access and those dates and those sorts of things. And while I have this past week seen some new hero prototypes, that's not a today thing. I'm sorry. But there's a lot of exciting stuff coming very, very, very soon. So we'll get to that in future things. Okay. With that being said, I see one request to speak. So I'm going to bring up Walek and let's try this out. All right.
Oh,
Walek, can you hear me? How you doing?
Oh, I can hear you very well. I'm doing good.
Great. It says you were ranked 1 playtest.
That's true.
It's true.
Me and my team reached the top of the leaderboard on the playtest. So we obviously sunk in a lot of time. And I think I have a pretty good grasp of where I would like to see the game go as well.
Perfect. Now, I was going to ask where you're calling from, but you sound Danish.
I am Danish. Okay, so that's correct.
All right. Perfect. All right. Like I talked about, I lived in Malmö for 8 years, which people would basically call Denmark.
Oh.
So
yeah. We don't want that to be part of Denmark, though, but
depends who you ask. All right. Okay. Well, like, what's kind of your main feedback? Let's start at the start. How was your experience in the Fellowship public playtest?
Well, I would say it was like overwhelmingly positive. Like to the point where I sunk in like 120 hours during the week of playtest, right? So
120. Okay, yeah, it's a lot. I'm trying to do the math on average. That's more than a full-time job. That's impressive.
Yeah. I mean, I put a lot of real-life responsibilities on hold for that week, so.
Okay, I won't tell anyone, don't worry.
And went into sleep dead as well, so.
Yeah.
But it was all worth it.
Probably
think.
not sustainable in the long term, but
No, of course
I
not.
appreciate your commitment.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get more specific. What did you play the alpha?
No, I did not.
Okay, that's really cool. What were your
I was not aware that there
expectations?
was an.
That's really good. What were your expectations going into the public playtest? And
Uh,
did they line up with what you actually experienced?
no, I mean I thought it was going to be way more scuffed.
Okay.
I did not expect it to be so polished. It felt way more playable than I thought it would be.
Okay. Can you be more specific? Like in what way did you think it might be
Like
scuffed?
balance wise, it was pretty on point. Like not just in terms of numbers and output of us, but also like output of the enemies and like the different mechanics and affixes and whatever we were dealing with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
But,
Okay.
So yeah,
This is all extremely positive, and I don't want to like any of the developers who are listening in to get an overinflated ego. So okay.
No, I mean I definitely have some negative things that I would like to talk about as well.
Let's get into it. What was the one main thing that, you were playing and you felt, this is kind of stopping me from reaching peak enjoyment?
I would say acquisition of gear is the first thing.
This is an
With it
interesting
being
one.
so heavily like RNG, because I'm a very competitive person, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to be able to compete on an even playing field, but the 66% empowered sockets items being so powerful and so random as well meant that I felt like I was competing at a disadvantage.
Okay. Yet still rank 1.
Yeah, luckily.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. No. I
because I acquired like 10 or 11 items total, but they were all in the same 3 slots. So I only had 3 items equipped with 66% sockets.
Yeah, that's a recurring piece of feedback we see coming up. Like, I don't exactly know how we will address these things. I think it's a kind of double-edged sword, right? Like, because we are definitely looking at a compressed timeline. How would you imagine that same dynamic working over, let's just hypothetically say, a longer period, 3 or 4 months? Do you think that would be as much of a problem then?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Because I would also like to play multiple heroes or characters.
Yeah.
And with this being the case, I want to like kind of grind out one class before I move on to the next one. So yes, I would still say that's a problem. There are multiple fixes, and I'm sure you'll find one that's suitable. But just some sort of deterministic way of acquiring the most powerful items. How grindy or how not grindy it should be, I will leave that up to you to decide. But it could be something like scrapping the 66% items for some sort of thing that you can combine and then get one that you can choose. I don't know.
No, I think that's really good feedback. It's definitely a discussion that's happening on the dev side as well. I am aware that I could talk to you for an hour, I'm sure, but I need to kind of bring in a bunch of other people. But was there any message you had for the devs before I bring in the next caller?
Yeah, I would just quickly say that I think that our offensive output as players is a little bit too high. A lot of the time, it felt like the main difficulty in the dungeons at the highest level was not can we do enough damage to get like the dungeon done in time. It was more so can we avoid getting one shot on the boss or otherwise. So things like the bosses being able to crit, I would say is a no-go for like a game like this. And
okay. I mean, I said this was like, no, I wasn't going to give any news, but I know that that's already something that's probably already cut. So
yeah, okay. That sounds good.
Enemies critting is on the chopping block from what I hear. But yeah. Anyway, let's not devolve into a news stream. Thanks so much, Wallach, for joining. I'm going to throw you back in the audience now, and we will bring up our next caller. Tusen tack. Okay. So Who do I have next? Let's have a look in here. Okay. Now I gotta bring it in Joe. Come on, Joe. Can you hear me, Joe?
I can hear you.
Fantastic. Wait, are you from Denmark as well?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the Denmark stream. Okay. I'm not mad about it. So people might have seen in our Discord that you've been putting together a master feedback document. I've passed it on to the devs. I think what we end at 80 pages.
Yeah, and I'm mad sad if you didn't read it, so
Oh no, people have been reading it, Joe. Don't worry. Okay, I don't have your webcam on the stream, but I like that you're holding us hostage. This is fantastic.
I mean this is also a pointer. Give me a gunslinger hero.
Okay, wants a gunslinger? Okay. This is what I love to see from the community. This is honestly blowing my mind. This is so cool. Oh, Joe.
I didn't take this off during the entire playtest, and I played for 127 hours, I think so.
Okay, so for the people that don't know or aren't on our Discord right now, I'll paint you a picture. Joe is wearing a poncho, a red cowboy hat, and has a little toy gun. So this is absolutely
It's a water gun.
this is fantastic. Okay, so talk me through the you went through this process of bringing together. I think there was like about 10 people that you were working with on this feedback document. What was the main thing that you would say jumped out as the kind of red thread between all of those people?
I pulled together 13 players, and the lowest two ranks are someone named Miss Ali from my stream. He played casually, so I needed him, and Angray himself, the man, the myth, the legend.
Yep.
As another casual, then the other players.
Yeah.
The lowest rank from the other players is 120 world. The rest is 43 and 14 and up. Wallick is also in there, and Ascension Clager.
Okay. It's incredible that you got those people together. When you were talking to these people, what was the main point that everyone had in common?
The main point was many of them didn't really enjoy the 66% on their gems. They didn't enjoy that.
Yeah. All right. I mean, there's probably people like myself on the, let's say, the more mid-tier players who didn't kind of reach those top ranks that wasn't an issue for. But those people that you were talking for at the cutting edge of the difficulty.
They were pretty high rank. Like I got rank 1 Helena, like Baloo and Wallick, Attention Clear, Karlberg even, and most of them as a tank or healer, they all explained certain issues with not only their kit but also how the damage profiles work, since the buff for Tarek, I don't know if it was needed, but it gave him so much power. Like at the end of the game, we were thinking that the double Tarek would be literally the meta game.
Yeah, we saw that as well. It was quite interesting to see just how much power that gave. I also think the really interesting thing to look at, if we were to, and this is, I guess, a question that I would have for Paul, one of our devs who's in chat, because he's been going through all of the numbers, and I'm sure we don't actually track this, but it would be really interesting, because I think the top skill capped Tarek players would be at a far higher output, like comparatively, just because of the rotation complexity. So I don't know how much that buff impacted kind of mid-tier players. I mean, it did.
Oh, it did a lot.
But like,
it did a lot.
But for the people who were at that like super skill capped level of Tariq, I think it was probably reaching some pretty broken kind of space. But that's why we do tests, right? It's really good to kind of see,
Yes, and the gem system was kind of, well, the Amethyst gem for Vigor and for Tarek was the nut. Like, it was completely nut.
Yeah.
Since it didn't have any proc per minute or anything, it was just a dot that you put on just by critting, and it didn't proc every like 5 seconds. It just every 0.001 second it just procced, and The damage it did was absolutely disgusting, and also the healing, it was absolutely disgusting.
Yep. Exactly. Okay. So that was the main kind of negative thing. Can you give me something that you maybe weren't expecting that was on the like
Oh,
positive side?
I love the reforge system. Like, I have this useless item I don't want. I
Mhm.
just got it from this dungeon or like adventure, and I don't use it. I have a better one, but I have this green ingot. I don't have a lot of them, but I got fixed later on, so I'm happy.
Mhm.
And I can just turn into a random thing. Just roll the dice, and if I need a chest and I hit a random chest that doesn't have anything, that's good because I can roll it again with my purple items. So the reforging was a good addition, I think. So it helps a lot with. So, for example, me, I didn't have a trinket for like the longest time ever.
Yeah.
Like I think 50 hours in, I had still had one trinket, and then it finally dropped. The second trinket, like I got it from a drop instead of reforging. But I think with a bit more reforging stuff, like with a bit more drops on those, I think we could not rely on super RNG to be like, okay, this place drops 7 items. I can literally go in here like a million times and not see the item, but
Mhm.
the reforge would help.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, Joe. I'm gonna have to jump on to the next person, but I really, really appreciate one, your cosplay. It's fantastic, but also
Cosplay.
all of the hard work that you've been doing for the community. It's really appreciated, and the devs are like super stoked with that document you put together. So thank you again. All right, talk to you again soon.
Talk to you
All
again.
right, bye. Okay, who are we gonna take next? Sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to randomly select. I have about 20 people. I made some dice recently. This is really bad. So, like, I need to kind of make it so my inclusions aren't. Anyway, my reason was yeah, too young when I poured these. Needed to go a bit longer. Anyway, okay. So, okay. An 18 puts me down near the bottom. I'm going to go for Regis. All right. So, Regis, let's invite you into chat. You have a nice little cat icon. So, I'm happy about that. Okay. Hello,
Why, hello
Regis.
there.
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Sorry if my English is a bit rough, but I'm from Brazil, so it's not my first language, but I will try to be concise.
No, it's perfect. Welcome. Okay, so what was your
s-
experience during the playtest?
So I had a pre-made group
Okay.
and of other 3 friends, and we managed to hit the 15s. So we had a good time. I wasn't expecting the game to be so fleshed out, so I was maining Tarek.
Okay.
And
Cool.
one point that I felt a bit jarring was the Tarek rotation at first, but after some time I loved it. I got used to it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And the point that I was thinking about bringing here is the question if you guys are thinking of South America servers and other region servers, or if the community will, or if you guys will wait to see if the community will rise to fit the demand, I guess. Something on those points.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the server things. Absolutely, feedback that we have. We get it a lot. I think it's a really really good point. But I think you kind of already answered it. Like you're kind of correct already that it's really related to how many people we have in the regions, right? We need to kind of wait and see. I absolutely know that the more coverage we can have in servers, the better it's going to be for everyone. We just need to make sure that it's one like financially viable and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, this is something we had talked about during the test. But yes, I absolutely hear you that some South America servers. The other thing we've heard about is like Southeast Asia, obviously Oceanic, which I would 100% be on board with. And, the more coverage, the better. I absolutely agree. Regis, can I ask you while I have you here, what was you mentioned that the Tariq rotation you kind of you learned over time, but was there anything else when you were getting up to plus 15s that kind of you felt wasn't that enjoyable, or you were wanting there to be changes to going forward?
Oops, sorry, I was muted.
No, that's good.
I guess it's something about the balance of the game. I don't think it's the time necessarily to fix right now, but some adventures and some dungeons felt a bit some steps higher in difficulty than others. Like we were pushing 15s with no problems. I forgot the names of the adventures, but we are pushing 15s easier, so in some dungeons, while struggling a bit hard on some 12s on the icy one, on the icy dungeon. And that was a bit jarring for us because we felt, oh no, nice, we are going for 15 now, and we join a 13 dungeon and we are just sorry about the language, was fucked. And it felt a bit bad to wipe and the icy dungeons, while in the same bracket we were just stomping through the dungeon. I guess
Yeah, I understand. I mean, that can also be related to the curses that were active during those times and those sorts of things. But no, that's really good feedback. I think I'm also really interested into that conversation about difficulty once you get to over plus 15s, because then the gear that you're getting from them doesn't matter because you're not getting any extra gear. But yeah, that's a really, really good point, Regis. All right, I'm going to move on to the next caller, but thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me. And if you guys have any job opening for devs, I'm open late.
I think we actually did post a job yesterday. I need to check. I think there was actually one that we were hiring for, but we just, do I say obrigado? Is that?
That's right. Obrigado.
All right.
Tamo junto.
Okay, thanks. Have a good one. Bye. Okay. I'm going to roll my terrible dice. See where I land on this. We are going to bring up Zig. This only really works if I have about 20 people in here, but
Hello.
Zig, can you hear me? How's it going?
Yes, I can.
Fantastic.
I'm great.
All right, whereabouts are you calling from in the world?
I'm from France.
Okay.
If that wasn't
Bonjour.
obvious,
Oh wait,
yeah.
bonsoir,
Hi.
because it is the evening. How is it going in France for you today?
I mean, it's good. It's good. Fellowship is back on the menu, kinda. So that's nice.
That's cool. Yeah. I sometimes joke that I learnt more French working for Ubisoft in Sweden than I did Swedish. Because Swedes love to speak English, but the French colleagues, they didn't care.
Yeah.
So, all right.
I'm fine either way.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, we would not be able to do this in French. All right. So you played the recent public playtest.
I've played only the most recent one, not the one that apparently happened like a few months ago. I've never heard of that. It's kind of a complaint, but it's not what I want to go over. And I mainly played Rhyme in the end.
Cool.
So I'm just gonna start real quick with the positive and the negative, and then we can go from there.
Sounds good.
So for me, the single biggest appeal was the fact that there was absolutely no fuss about like crafting costs, respecing costs, etc. Things that usually keep the players engaged with the game, but actually don't make the player play the game. And the great thing about the game was I can just log in, tag, play the game, and that's it. And on top of that, for me, the visual clarity and the performance of the game were amazing. And I understand that some people would love to see like a better visually pleasing game,
Mm.
but it comes at a cost. And in a game like that, where I feel like it's not really the competitiveness aspect or anything, but the fact that we can actually see precisely everything that is happening on the screen is great.
Yeah.
And I wanted to point it out.
No, it's really just on that point. I think that's really, really great that you bring that up. We saw a lot also, even in some of the top players we had as they were streaming, and you see this on a lot of games, that they will turn down a lot of the graphics settings just
Yep.
for readability, right?
Everything at the minimum.
Exactly. And I know that makes a lot of our artists kind of cry, but there's a really good thing to learn from that. And this is one of the things that I want to do. Maybe a discussion session with our art director and our art team about
Mhm.
this topic of visual clarity, because I know that there are some really strong feelings on the team about how to kind of balance that desire for things looking really flashy, but we also want things to be readable. So you don't want
Yep.
everything to be super high contrast all
Yep.
the time and certain things. So yeah, it's a really interesting topic. I will.
And that's also why some other games allow players to actually hide the effects from different players,
Mhm.
so that it's actually better performance for everyone.
Yeah.
It's not the ideal solution. Like I don't want. I'm not saying that I want that. I'm just saying that if you actually want a better looking game, it might be an option.
No. I completely understand that. No, thank you. That's yeah. I think really good to point out to the team, and we are more on the same page than I think people might recognize. So that's cool.
All right,
All right,
that's great.
lay some negative
And
stuff on
on
me.
the
Yeah.
on the bad side of the things,
Yep.
I had I don't know if I want to say that I was fortunate enough, but basically my friends stopped playing after a few days,
Okay.
and I got to experience the game alone. And the queue wasn't really an issue for me specifically, but I wanted to know if maybe a couple things. First, the fact that we couldn't actually tag into a dungeon. Let's say right now we can either tag for a 15, tag for let's say 15 or below, but we cannot tag for 15 or above. And since I had cleared the 15 for a few days, I didn't really want I couldn't really know where the players were. So like I don't know if I should tag a 16 or if I can just keep farming on the 15. And since I have absolutely no idea where the players are, I just tagged 15 and kept farming.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it would be a great way for us to know where the players are playing. Not necessarily how many people are in the queue, but just where the people are.
Yeah. No, that's a
And that
really.
also help either the players on the higher end to know like there are people searching or there are people playing a 15 right now or 20 or 30 or whatever, but also for the lower end, and we actually experienced that during the playtest. On the last couple of days, I tried queuing a few of my low characters, and I just gave up. And
Yeah.
knowing that those players exist and are there and are queuing would help people just queue with them, I guess.
Yeah. No, I completely understand. That's one of the big conversations that we're having on our side. Obviously, Fellowship is going to be the best game when that group finding process is the most frictionless possible. I think, yeah, the best way to kind of think of it is that in the alpha, we had a really rudimentary version of the group finder. Then in the public playtest, we had a new version. We tried some new stuff. Some things were better, but I would be very surprised if that is at all similar to the next version of the group finder that people experience. We're constantly looking at ways to improve that. And we've definitely got some ideas on our side about how to make that better of a process. But yeah, you're not alone in that experience of, trying to find a group and that sort of thing. So that's really, really good feedback. So
Right.
love
Just
to
to be
hear it.
clear, the issue was not to find a group, but to know where to find people. Because I
Exactly.
could find a group no problem at 15. And
Yeah.
I didn't really want to try like more or less. I just kept playing because I'd
Mhm.
rather play than not play.
Yeah, exactly. I think we were kind of hoping that the quick play thing would fulfill some of those things, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done on that whole thing to make sure that
Yep.
people can find. Yeah, just I think your sentiment is kind of at the root of what we're talking about. That I just want to play. Let me play something. Um, we need to make sure that we give people an avenue to play stuff as quickly as possible. All right. I'm going to jump onto the next caller, Zig, but thank you so much for
Thanks.
your feedback. Have a great evening, and I look forward to seeing
You
you on
too.
Discord again soon.
Bonne soirée.
All right, bonsoir. Do you know what's so cool? Is that, like, I don't know, this is going very smoothly. I'm really enjoying this. It's nice that everyone's come in, giving great feedback. I was a little concerned that when we give the mic to people on the internet, that you're kind of opening yourself up to bad things happening. This is going great. Keep it going. I'm very, very impressed with the community and, uh, yeah, kind of blown away, honestly. And Operative Buzz saying, posture check yourself, Hamish, in Twitch chat. I will do that. I need to, yes, get ergonomic on this. Thank you very much for the reminder. I was going to say hydrate, but all I have is coffee. Whoops. Yeah. Sunnyside saying Jinx, next person coming in swinging. Maybe. All right. Can use my trusty, terribly poured die that hasn't been inked. All right. We're going for someone in the middle. Again, there's more than 20 people, so I'm going to just choose someone. Here we go. Tagalong. Tagalong has been invited. All right.
Hey,
How's it going? How are you?
doing super well yourself?
Yeah, really good. It looks like you're a Sylvie player from.
Oh yeah, I love me some Sylvie. Played her in the alpha, played her in the playtest that we just had, and I loved every second of it. Tried a little bit of Igar, but more of a druid guy myself,
Okay, I totally understand. I mean, I am 100% a druid maxi in anything that I play. Generally, it's my first D&D 5e character. I'm like a
Oh, there you go.
walking vegan, you know, got to choose druid. Do you know what I mean? Like it's gonna
Yeah,
happen.
yeah. No, I love the additions that you did to her, as far as giving her the mushroom ability and then giving her a way to distinguish the threat, and giving a little move speed with it too and the DR with it. All the new stuff that you guys added was awesome, including the affixes being static to the dungeon and their difficulty. I thought that was a really good idea, rather than trying to find that one dungeon with the right affixes just so you can hit the leaderboard. That was kind of lame, right? But now it being static, everybody has to try the same exact amount and find the right tier to hit it home.
Yeah, that's interesting. Let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, because we had at least hoped that this would create that a level playing field, like I think you mentioned, but also it kind of felt really cheesy that people would just select, obviously, that, I mean, and it makes sense, the easiest modifications to be able to blast through stuff. Do you see?
Yeah, and that still happens, right?
Yeah.
Because, you see, with the statics, you still can find that, the tier 16 is way easier than like the tier 17 or something like that, right? We even found a couple T19s that were, exactly that way, where they were in fact easier than a 15.
Yeah.
Just that depended on the dynamic scaling. I think, especially the one with the health affix, where they did a portion of their health and could detonate them as long as you had a really good tank,
Yeah, I was just going to bring up Stone Skin. I think that one was kind of, yeah, I mean, understandable. Like it was fun, but also like, do we then? There's like a line where it goes from fun to kind of trivializing some things, which I think is kind of.
I think you have a fun mechanic. I think you guys will figure it out, though.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of scaling here and there, like you said. That's the reason why you guys do the tests.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I sometimes forget. I don't know if about you, or maybe this is more a thing for the whole community. When I go and play tests, I expect a game that is far less complete or polished than, and I'm being objective here, than what I think Fellowship
you're correct.
is. I think that's one of the challenges that we have here as a community is seeing it for what it is. Like, we are in a test. I saw a comment on I think it was someone went back and bumped one of our old videos and was like, oh, even the alpha looks so different from what we have in the beta.
Yep.
I don't really, the only
It's
point
kind
I'm
of
trying
funny
to
you
make
say
is
that
that, yeah,
because
we're moving forward.
this is the most probably, I don't know, fair, like as far as everybody's stats go, playtest, alpha, beta, whatever have you, that I've ever been a part of. I mean, you guys have really hit it home with the amount of polish that for the most part, everybody's very, very balanced.
Yeah, I would. There's obviously a lot of work that we want to keep doing, but yeah, I would say we are in a globally pretty good position. I do want to ask you because you seem too nice, so so let's talk about it. Like most druids, um, what do you think the
Things
biggest
that I don't like.
things that you don't like, but also like what? Let's imagine a parallel universe and the game's coming out in early access and we're getting this influx of people. What do you think the biggest thing in the game is a risk for people bouncing on the game?
I could definitely see people playing the whole like this is a too grindy. I'm not getting the reward as I want it, fast enough. There's definitely that evident. Like for example, me, I don't really care. I mean, I enjoy the game, so I'm playing it for that, not really getting the pixels, if you will. But it took me probably about 60 hours to get my first trinket drop, right? And we had been targeting those, the dungeons that have the drop for it and so on have you. I imagine that ruining an average player's experience there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, having an empty
not
slot is
feeling
never
like
fun.
they're
Yeah.
as strong as somebody else comparably.
Okay, so let's kind of play that out a bit. If you'd gotten like a trinket slot filled, but maybe not at like perfect quality or whatever. Let's say hypothetically, you're looking to fill empty slots. Does it matter to you that those things are not best in slot, or
No, not necessarily. I think it would become more of an evident issue if you were missing something. I think that would be the next, level, if you will, right? First you're going to be like, oh, well, I don't have this. Then if you have it, then you're going to be like, oh, well, this isn't the most shiny of them all. I think you'll definitely run into each of those battles. I just think circumstantially, you're going to run into the first rather than the latter.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely understand. I think that's a really good point. I know that this is, again, a discussion that we're having on the dev side. How do we balance, making sure that people aren't kind of demoralized by, not getting a slot filled, right? That's important.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's not a
Maybe
good
like a
feeling.
little token system, like how some games have it. After you run it past the percentage of what you have in the system of you getting it on the paper, right? That you actually have enough of that whatever resource to just afford it right there.
Yeah. No, totally understand. Conversely, let's again. I was talking about this earlier in the stream. Let's imagine where, the game's out. We're, looking at, maybe doing a more of a 3 to 4 month scale, or however long these times we think might go. Do you think it would also be problematic? How do we balance? I guess what I'm trying to say, sorry, is that how do we balance people getting gear too quickly and gear capping, and then, being like, well,
So I think
I'm
you
done.
guys already really did a good job, right? As far as it goes. So you can basically hit one of your 5 sets, if you will, and then you're going to be targeting pieces for the socket bonus to fill out and to fledge out the rest of your pieces. I think the next step after that would be replacing that 5 set or 3 set, 2 set, whatever, right? With more pieces that have those socketed drops. So I think that is your long haul, right? The gem system, because it's circumstantially a lot more powerful than what we currently have on any of the tier sets. Like, yes, they do stack, but you can get a lot more static stats from the gems, I feel.
Yep. No, that's a good point. All right.
But after playing it for a good bit, you were able to fill out like maybe 50% of it for a good bit, and I think 3 months, 4 months, or whatever that looks like, I think you could still have a good giant out of the people that play this still in the gearing.
Absolutely. And like we were talking about with one of the other callers before, is no one really played an alt, really, in this test, because why would you? But in future, imagine we have a bigger hero roster and you want to maybe even, if you were a healer main, you could have, multiple healers geared up and ready to go. That's cool.
Yeah, well, thanks for the time, man.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I will jump onto the next caller, but have a great rest of your evening.
You as well.
All right. Catch you later. Bye. Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, we technically have 19 minutes left, but it doesn't seem like the meeting that I thought I had scheduled was actually scheduled at a different time. And I mean, I'm okay to go along, and it looks like there's a lot of people who want to keep talking. So let's just chat. Let's just enjoy talking about how to make our game better. So if people are up for that, I'm up for it too. Okay. We will roll. And I've got a 5 on my dice, so I'm looking at somewhere around here. Let's bring in... Okay. Gotta do it. All right, I'm inviting one too many. Hey.
Hey, greetings.
Greetings. Good morrow. How are you?
Greetings, good sir. I bid thee good day. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for reinforcing my high fantasy town hall cosplay type role playing that I was looking for. I appreciate it.
I don't think I can keep it going, unfortunately.
No problem. No, that's fine. It's the energy that I was hoping for. So, Twitch chat is saying tips Fedora. Yes, fantastic.
Right, so let me just get the basics through real quick. I'm Danish, like the other people. I have 54 hours of playtime. I am number 7 Sylvie, unlike that guy number 10. Jeez.
Well,
and I played in the alpha as well, so that's the baseline.
Fantastic. Why are there so many Danish players? Or is it that there is so many opinionated Danes? I'm not sure.
I could talk a lot about why, I think, but I think it comes down to, I think we just play a lot of World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I get that. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. How much can I talk about the alpha in relation to things?
Look, I think the let's say the embargo has lifted on the alpha.
The embargo has lifted.
Look,
okay, so
if I hang up, you'll know you said too much.
Yeah. I have some feedback written down. Unfortunately, some points, just some talking points. Unfortunately, all the things I thought was really important, everybody else already mentioned. So I'm just going to zero in on healer/Sylvie design stuff and feedback on that, if that's okay.
Please.
Yeah, so I think it was really cool that, let's go talk about Rhyme. I think it was really cool that Rhyme has this life leech cooldown. The fact that it was so strong that you could actually feel it and plan around with Rhyme having this cooldown for this mechanic sort of thing. I love it. In similar games, wink wink, it never really feels that impactful when they have a sort of effect like that. Well, not as impactful. So I really liked how you choose that up. Sylvie specifically, I think the changes you did from alpha to the beta were great. Fantastic. Specifically removing the casted heal, I can't remember what it's called. Masterclass, just going full hot on that. I loved it.
Okay.
The one part that kind of took it all down, unfortunately, not at all, but Heartbloom was really strong. It was ridiculously strong to the point where it overshadowed most of the kit. I had the thing ticking for 8k for the last 3 ticks without really doing anything, which sort of carried all the healing I needed for certain mechanics and sort of solved things without me having to think much about it.
Okay.
So that was the thing. I love the Shroom guys. I love that I can plan my damage around, and it's impactful damage, like save it for ads, blam. Great. Loved that part. Spirit. I'm guessing you guys had something planned for Spirit, but you couldn't get it done in time because Spirit didn't do anything.
As a stat.
Yeah, as a stat. It gave some mana refund, but everybody else also got a resource refund like that. But we didn't have anything else on top of that. So it didn't really feel worth ever having Spirit. Because our ultimate, it's great, but I would rather just, instead of having a big burst of heal, I would rather just heal more and then save that mana instead of like by not spending it, instead of having the spirit and casting weaker things more.
Yeah, I think.
And I think Vigor had the orb refund. Sorry, I'm talking a lot. I'm
No, it's good.
interrupting you.
No, lay it on us. This is good. This is good.
Yeah, like Vigor had he has this glowing orb thing that he refunds with Spirit, and Vigor, as far as I understood, they love Spirit because of that, because it interacts with our kits and all these things.
Mm.
But for Sylvie's, like we hated Spirit essentially. It was the worst stat because it didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm. Is that
So I'm
Devil's Advocate? Is
Yeah.
that a bad thing?
Yeah, I think it's a bad thing.
Okay.
If it did something that we could say, it's kind of like, if you look at every stat, it's like crit. If you have 20% crit, that's kind of like a 20% throughput. If you have 20% haste, that's kind of like a 20% throughput. I think if Spirit doesn't have a similar sort of thing where you can go, yeah, that's kind of like a throughput increase, or, with refunds, it's sort of, complicated. But you can go, well, that's kind of worth a 20% throughput increase, I guess. If you can't do that, then it's just immediately snap. There's no decision. It's just, this stat is bad.
Yeah. No, I can see that. I Spirit seemed to be great for basically everyone else. Like, I know, well, I didn't play much Rhyme, but it seemed crazy for Rhyme. I played a lot of Tariq, and every time I had my ult up, it was like crazy. So
Yeah.
I think that's really, really good feedback. Okay. What would be, and this is the question I asked someone before, what do you think the biggest risk for the early access launch for us would be? How do we make sure that people get like hooked on Fellowship?
See, that's a hard question for me to answer, because I'm the sort of player where you can mess up a lot of things and I'll still be here playing the game.
Yeah, so that's not the question. we don't want
I know.
that.
I'm trying to how can you say, perspectivize my answer, because I'm not really from a place where I, like, for my kind of player, you don't really need to do anything. You already have me.
Yeah.
So I can't really answer that question well. I have one friend I brought into this game who doesn't play these sorts of games a lot, and he comes from Final Fantasy mostly. And the one thing he said, it's whatever, but he didn't feel his spells were as impactful, which you can take however you like. I think it was mostly about how in Final Fantasy it's all very visual, very kapow, very, cinematic kind of. He didn't feel that, and that felt bad to him, but that could also be a question of taste, because I don't like that in Final Fantasy. So,
yeah, there's some really interesting feedback that I've seen on that point that has been related to, obviously, like the visuals, making sure that there's like instant visual feedback. People might have noticed that if you played Helena during the alpha compared to the public playtest, she had a huge upgrade in her animations and her VFX as well. Not necessarily the same for other characters. So we've got a lot to do going forward, but yeah, that's a big focus for the team. There was an interesting one as well. Someone was even saying the way that the scrolling combat text kind of pops up, like you're not kind of seeing this crit or this thing happened. So I think there's definitely ways that we can make sure that feedback is clearer.
If I can finish off with the final perspective on your question.
Please.
I think you have a lot of freedom in what you do. Again, players like me, we're going to be playing your game. You can do a lot of things and we'll still be playing it. So I don't think you have to worry too hard about us staying. Like you can, I think we can accept things being more pointed towards introducing new players and giving them a good flow. We'll do whatever we have to do to make it work.
Yeah.
Like, I don't speak for the community, but speaking for me, I think I'm okay being overlooked a little in that sense, because the long-term success of the game is more important to me than being catered to immediately.
I'd love to hear that. Thank you so much for that feedback. I know that that's the kind of stuff that the devs love to hear as well. I will let you get back. It is quite late over there, and you should probably go to bed.
I was on my way to bed. I didn't know this feedback was today, so that was fun.
And we're probably going to be here for a little bit longer. But yeah, have a good sleep. We'll see you on Discord soon.
See you.
All right, bye. Very, very good. Okay, okay. We've got a lot of people queued up. We're gonna have to start doing some quick rounds here soon. I'm gonna roll the dice and choose some names that 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. let's bring in Int. Yeah, I'd be very interested to hear. Oh, hello, Int.
Hey, hi.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Really good. I
Cool.
am very interested to hear about your experience.
Right. I just found the game over the Steam Fest randomly and just started playing it.
Cool.
I think a lot of the inspiration of the game came from WoW. Don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but that's
You
what
can
I've
say
heard
whatever you
from the
like.
player base. I'm personally a Final Fantasy player,
Yeah.
so I played the game for about 130 hours, I believe. Got addicted halfway through the playtest. And one of the biggest feedback that I have, the positive feedback, is that I think the game is fantastic in the sense of like, if you're catering towards more of the general casual player, the one that just logs in and starts playing the game, I feel like you guys have really nailed that. It's quite easy to get into. But obviously a lot of players would also try to be more competitive, as I did towards the middle of my playthrough. And the one thing well, I know this is not really a Q&A, but the one feedback I had was our group kind of felt like the scoring system could use a bit more variation to it.
In what way?
From our understandings, like if you completed a dungeon of a higher tier, obviously you would get you get a higher score. But even if you don't complete it, you had reward for just completing. Sorry, if you didn't complete it in time, you would still get some sort of score. But there's not much really more variation to that. I don't know how the metric works in terms of like clearing it X seconds faster would affect the scoring system. But at a certain point, I would imagine most people, if you're doing like, from what I've gathered from the previous few call-ins, this game is headed towards more of a seasonal thing. And so at a certain point, if you are, again, I'm not speaking for the casual, so it may not be really good feedback. I'm just speaking from a perspective of people that might be putting a lot of hours into the game, trying to achieve the pinnacle of what the game has to offer in terms of endgame progression. And at a certain point, everyone's going to reach that endgame, quote unquote, gear score level, if you put it. So everyone's going to somewhat of what the meta is in terms of like having the strongest character. So what will differentiate Team A from Team B? Is it the date they clear it? Is it the time stamp they clear it? Or is it like how fast they can do it? I'm assuming also considering it's an infinite scaling design where, well, in the playtest it was limited to, I believe it was level 30.
That's correct.
So post level 30, let's say that's 31. At a certain point, you're going to get stat capped, where it's just physically impossible to do it because you just don't have these stats for dishing out enough damage to complete it in time, or achieving the filling up the 100%, or at a certain point it's gonna be you're gonna get one shot by everything. So I was just saying the feedback for like in terms of keeping things to be least repetitive as possible is potentially maybe introducing. I know the curses are there, which is fantastic because it makes things really interesting because you have to strategically design your runs based on the curses and different strategies and also the paths you take, but also potentially just maybe making things more interesting by reaching a certain cap. You can add a layer of complexity of say new mechanics, perhaps, where you would reach a certain level and introduce like something fresh to differentiate really the different teams that may have reached that height, finishing the last heap. Or just also, or maybe not even that, just different metrics of performance indicator, I would say.
Cool.
Is my
That's really, really good feedback. And yeah, like we were just talking about, we did have it at a plus 30 cap during the test, but the plan is going forward to have no cap. That is, yeah, we'll be really interested to see how that goes the next time that people can get their hands on the game. But yeah, we've got definitely a lot to kind of learn because we do want it to kind of feel fresh for those people who are way up the leaderboard as well. But yeah, that's really good feedback. Was there anything else, any other messages you had for the devs before I jump into the next caller?
No, I think it's just a great easy to jump into game, and I think it just gets better as just depends on how invested you want to be, and I'm excited to see what's lined up next.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your feedback. I hope to see you on
Of course,
Discord
thank you
soon.
for having me.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Have a good one. See you later.
Thanks.
Okay, we are about to come up on the hour, but there's still so many people here. I did not expect that we would have so many people who wanted to chat. Look, to be honest, kind of thought it might get a little bit awkward and we have like 2 or 3 people and we'd be like here for 10 minutes and, that was a risk. But, if we were here, and I'm really sorry we're not going to be able to have a chance to talk to everyone. Yeah, it would be tricky. Let's just have a quick look at chat. You're saying it's never awkward? I mean, I'm okay with it awkward. Maybe being okay with it awkward makes it less awkward. Yes. So I would be particularly interested, and let's just take a moment. I would really love to speak to someone who didn't play any of the tests of Fellowship beforehand and hasn't played or isn't like kind of a dungeon focused gamer. If you come from like the world of MOBAs or ARPGs or that sort of thing, I'd really love to know. So if in chat there's someone like that, okay, I see. I need to turn off streamer mode. So let's have a look. Didn't play the alpha, big Diablo player. All right, let's go and speak to that. Okay, and then there's a few people we want to talk to. All right. All right. We should have that. Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
Okay. Hi, it's going good. Thank you for inviting me.
No, of course, big Diablo player.
Yes. I've been playing Diablo since I've been playing the most since Diablo 3, but I played Diablo 2, and that was a treasured experience of my childhood, but not because I was good at it. That was just a thing. I kind
Me
of out
too.
myself for my age.
I said we wouldn't talk about other games, but if it's Diablo 2, I'll talk about it for hours. Fun fact, there's actually I have an NPC in Diablo 3 that you can find in Westmarch. So if you want
Really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go look for that. That's
Yeah.
interesting. I like stuff like that.
Yeah, when I left Blizzard, they put in an NPC, and it's kind of shady. It's like a crazy old man, and he drops a thing called Ramblings of a Deranged Mind, I think is the book.
Oh, he drops that?
Yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting.
Anyway, people can Google it. It's in there somewhere. Anyway, okay. How was your experience not being like I don't know if you play Final Fantasy or WoW or any of other games like that. How was it?
I do play some WoW, but
Sure.
I sorry to cut you off. I'm sorry, but
No, it's good.
I really like the game. I jumped in on the first night and I played for like 10 minutes, and I went to bed and I was like, I want to play more of that. And then I couldn't play for 2 days, and then I played for about 60 hours over the course of like Thursday to the Monday. So I put some hours in at the end.
Cool.
And I kind of really like the core gameplay loop. Like I liked what was presented in the demo. Like I like the foundation of it all, from like the pick up and play and let's go. It's so fast and so easy. And I had to drag some people in from WoW so we could actually push really high, because I was interested in pushing too. I share some of the sentiments other people have been saying about like some complications and difficulties with like in a 1 week microcosm of like chasing like 66 sockets and so forth.
Sure.
I don't really think it's interesting to talk about that, because again, it's a 1 week beta, but
Yeah.
I
So
don't know. I guess oh, go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say one of the things that, and this is why I wanted to talk to someone from like the ARPG space. We saw that JB, who was J.B on Twitch, was obviously streaming the game a lot. Also, Yoda was streaming the game a lot, and they both kind of brought up the fact that a lot of the elements in terms of like gearing and talents and gems and that sort of stuff kind of felt a bit more towards the ARPG side than it did the the MMO space. Did some of that feel familiar to you from your time with Diablo, or do you kind of resonate with that sentiment, or not so much?
I kind of see what they're saying there, but like I don't that doesn't really resonate to me because again, like I put so much time into Diablo 3. Like the gems in that were just stat sticks effectively until you got to the legendary gems.
Mm.
And that's closer to what they're saying, I think. But the gems in this game are so powerful, and that's kind of what some of the most fun was. Is like it was like for me, getting the gear, then you start to play with the gems, like your progression system into that. Like now you're looking at like, oh, I have all these bonuses essentially,
Mhm.
and it was just like building and chasing those. And a lot of it is kind of like I think the core gameplay loop of chasing that is very fun. It doesn't feel too great when you're chasing it and you're like having difficulty getting them and you're getting other things and you're just doing the gambling system, but it's not a bad feeling. It's just like drat, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get it. Do you, okay, devil's advocate again, do you sometimes think that maybe the gems were a bit too powerful? I mean, I saw some sentiment about um, gems were so powerful that it didn't almost really care what the stats, you didn't really care about the stats on your gear as long as, you were able to kind of activate your gems and that sort of thing. Do you feel like that balance was too far one way or not? How was your experience with that?
I think raw stats were stronger, like just straight speaking, like ant crit or so forth. I thought purple 6, I believe it was, where you get like the ignite effect, like the damage off your crit. I thought that was going to be game changing, and I was going to be king of the world. And it definitely was free damage and felt great, but it wasn't. It was not what I thought. I thought it was just going to like change everything, and it took so much time and effort to get that far, to get that much gems for the time I put in.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really strong, but it wasn't like game changing. That was not the end all be all. Now I think if I had a full purple, like the full 10, which again I would need like full 6, I think I calculated I needed 4 or 5 66s, and then also multiple of the highest tier gems, which I could not populate.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting. Do you, again, I really appreciate your feedback. Is there anything else that you were hoping to kind of get across to the devs before I jump onto the next caller?
I think for the people that will chase a leaderboard and play this game in like a hardcore sense like that, I think you have everything you need. I think for your question you asked 1 or 2 people ago, I want to address what would be the best to make the game to like what would make an early access the most successful is finding something that's going to allow alt friendliness. Like I realize that even in the sense of like if this game is here for 3 months, you could just play a character for X amount of time and then start your other one. Like there's no vacuum for it. But you're gonna have a lot of people that are just gonna want to play for like up to like +5 to 8 and then start a new character. It doesn't make sense to me. It's not the way I play a game. But the Diablo 4 graphic right after the first launch of Diablo 4 kind of put things in interesting light to me. Like when they were like announced we have over 6 million players, and it was like 100,000 players had completed the main story, and it was like this other like these millions of other players were in like the 20 to 40s, just like leveling a character for a day and then going to the next one, just group leveling.
Mm-hmm.
I think Fellowship, at least for the beta, that was like not something you would be able to do very well. As long as you have that secured with like bigger lobbies or possibly like like friend like gear passing off or anything like equal what is it, progression, equal progression between characters, I think that could be a good step in the right direction.
Yeah, I saw some really interesting discussions around like, if we were to go into a season, do we put some things in to incentivize people to play alts? Are there kind of over a hypothetical season, do you have a whether it's on like the first couple of weeks or week or whatever, you have a gear cap, and then for the people that reach that, they might go back and play an alt and start gearing up, so they still have something to do. I think there's a lot of interesting ways to kind of handle that and incentivizing certain things to keep the population healthy. Because obviously this all would tie into making sure that we have people for matchmaking and all sorts of things. But yeah, it's going to be a fun balancing act, I think. Yeah.
Sure,
No, I
yeah.
appreciate the feedback.
Oh, can I say one last thing?
Please.
Add weapons. Make some super cool legendary weapon that for each character that does like makes the gems look boring.
Maybe. I said this wasn't going to be a news stream, but we'll talk about some exciting stuff soon. But yeah, very good
Yeah.
point. Yes.
Thank you for your
Absolutely.
time.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Okay. Like I mentioned, not a news stream, but there will be exciting things to talk about very, very soon. I see a couple of things here in Twitch chat. So Faded saying, I don't think you ever want to force alts. You want players to want to play alts because they want to try the game from a new perspective. I agree. I agree. But it's going to be really an interesting thing and an ongoing conversation about how we make sure that the player base is really healthy, that we have, it's like, I don't know, feel like it's this chemistry of making sure that, you know, people aren't getting massive FOMO because, the players are just running away with it and you're like, oh, well, I'm so far behind. Why am I going to play? But you want a little bit of that because you want to catch up. It's game design, especially for a live game, is so complex and so many nuances to it that, yeah, it's going to be an ongoing thing for sure. Have to balance. Yeah. That's that. We've got a couple of other things. People very excited to talk about weapons. Fliss is saying, you love Fellowship. Can't wait to play it release. Yes, me too. There's going to be, some interesting times in between now, early access, other things that I'm really excited to do stuff like this because just because we can't play the game doesn't mean we can't talk about it. And yeah, I appreciate all of you being here to hang out, give your feedback. Like I said, we are over an hour in and this has gone very well. I've got a lot of trust in you, and I hope it's not misplaced. So keep proving me right. Very cool. All right. Who do we have here? Mick Mank. I think we will bring you in.
Hello.
Hey,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Did I see that you
Okay,
were a
okay.
Dota
Hi.
player? Was that
I'm come from League of Legends.
come from League?
Our-
Okay. But yeah, it's good to have
Okay.
I'm interested to talk about the MOBA perspective. Had you played any Fellowship before? How much did you know about Fellowship before the public playtest?
Nothing.
Nothing.
And
Great.
in fact, I found Fellowship. I don't even remember how, but not directly via Steamfest.
Okay. How did you
Um,
find it?
I don't remember. I think there was like some websites that advertised Steam Next Fest, and then I checked what games are gonna be in the Steam Next Fest, and I found Fellowship there.
Interesting.
But before it started.
Very cool. What made you? Okay, so tell me what made you want to download and play the demo?
So I've tried World of Warcraft back in Shadowlands. Great time to start WoW. Because some of my friends played WoW and they convinced me to try it. And I have mixed opinions on WoW.
Sure.
But M+ was the part of the game that had the most fun. So then when I saw on Steam that there's a game that is basically just dungeons, I was like, wait, this looks like the part of WoW I actually enjoyed. And
Okay.
in fact, I got one of my friends to play with me, and he said that, wait, for me this might be a WoW killer.
Don't say it.
He also
don't say
plays. He also plays WoW for dungeons, right?
that. Okay. Yep. Okay.
So
No, that's really interesting.
That's it.
Okay, so walk me through how it was for you in the onboarding. Obviously, you were kind of, I guess, familiar with like what we would call the 3Cs, like the characters, the camera, and the controls. Like you knew how to operate the game.
Yes.
But was how was those first kind of hours with Fellowship? Walk me through how you felt.
So I loved the game. Like, it was very fun from the beginning. I really liked it that at the beginning characters didn't have super many spells, because in WoW, like, if I leveled, like, I have to level the character, right? But like, I leveled Paladin in WoW, and I had like 20 something spells. That's just too much to like keep track of for me.
Mhm.
And the fact that I started with a character who had like 10 spells, I played Rhyme mostly. I tried Tariq a bit.
Mhm.
The fact that the character had limited pool of spells at the beginning, and then you unlock new ones as you progress through the game was really nice, because the spells are introduced one by one. You get to play with them a bit, and it feels very natural that like you get used to them. It feels natural when you start using these spells.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I saw someone in chat also saying like having that simplified kit. That's also one of the things that we wanted, I guess, players like yourself to have that onboarding experience, not just from the tutorial, but you kind of get uh, drip fed those abilities and that sort of stuff. I would like to ask you, what would stop you from playing our game once we put it into early access? What would be the biggest turn off for you?
Okay, so two things probably
Mhm.
come to my mind. So the first is like repeatability of content.
Yeah.
Like right now there were only 7 dungeons. I don't know if you plan to like increase the pool or rotate it.
Mhm.
This is thing that I hate in WoW, for example. When there's a Mythic Plus season, you have 8 dungeons over and over the same things.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't play WoW for more than a month.
Okay.
And like
So more
after the
variety.
week,
That makes sense.
I was slowly like feeling that okay, I'm playing over the same things.
Mhm.
But I don't think it's necessarily bad. I think it's maybe just me kind of thing where I just would prefer more variety. And I'm a type of player who doesn't really care about like pushing super hard, but maybe want to do like different dungeons.
Mhm.
And second thing I think was queue times. At first they were fine, like for the first days, but towards the end of playtest, like I was having issues where I would like wait for like sometimes 10 minutes.
Mhm.
Maybe this was because I was playing in a party of 2. I've heard that like it was somewhat difficult to find DPS players.
Yeah. Go figure. Yeah. No,
Which is kind of fun
Yeah.
because like from the short experience with WoW I had, like always tanks and healers were the difficult ones to find.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how we go once.
But
Yeah.
you have asked other people here about like one thing that you think could affect the game negatively, and I think that right now, like the amount of difficulties that are available to players is very large.
Yeah.
Like when you think about it, like average player probably will play from like 1 to 20 difficulties.
Yep.
You effectively divide the player base by 20.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying there should be like way fewer difficulties, but I think that let's say that someone new turns into the game mid through the season, people are leveled to like 16, 70s, maybe up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that player has to find new players to play with, right?
Yeah.
So one thing that I would change here is maybe slightly increase the difficulty curve, so that there are functionally fewer difficulties, because this will like it doesn't really change much for like people who push the highest levels, because they will just find the roof at some point, right?
Yeah.
But like the remaining player base will feel better with that.
No, I mean that's a really good point. I actually had a very similar conversation with our game director yesterday. There's a general feeling on our side that the first few levels were probably too easy, right? Like you could trivialize a lot of that content, so nothing felt impactful. You could basically get one piece of something and you'd be able to knock through difficulties really, really quickly. But I think, yeah, that's a really good point that you bring up. Maybe there's a point that it's a bit too granular. Yeah, I really appreciate that feedback, Mick.
I'm gonna say that despite saying this, I quite enjoyed the fact that at the beginning I would like play, let's say, +1, +2, +3.
Mhm.
Okay, I can't beat +3 because I don't have any gear. So I go back to +2s, +1s, do a
Mhm.
bit of them. Then I can beat +3. I go +4, +5, +6. I
Yeah.
hit the roof again. Like that gameplay loop feels very good to me.
Mhm.
It felt fun. And also obtaining loot was very easy. Something that in WoW Mythic Plus I hated was that, well, one, you don't have guaranteed loot in WoW. And second of all, if you don't beat the timer, you also get like less loot,
Mhm.
which sucks. Here, there is no problem with that. So gearing was pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. I really appreciate your feedback, Mick, and I see a lot of people in chat also saying very similar things. They really appreciate what you're saying too. I'm gonna move on, but thank you so much for your feedback.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for letting me talk. And I mean, I can only wish you good luck with the project.
Thank you so much. I hope you'll stick around.
Thank
Cool.
you.
Have a good one. Bye bye. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mick, for that feedback. We've got a lot of really, really good stuff coming in. Really appreciating this. And I've had some messages from the devs as well on Slack. You might have heard some things popping up. They are really, really appreciating it. And again, like me, kind of blown away by how smoothly this is going. I know that there was a little bit of a concern that maybe I don't want to tempt anyone, right? I don't want to tempt anyone to be a bad actor, but this is giving me all sorts of good feelings. Really, really appreciating everyone. So we're again almost 20 minutes over how long I expected to be talking, but there are lots of people here, so we're going to keep going. All right. No, Death has been queued up for the whole time. Hello, Death.
Hello.
How's it going?
Just another day of no fellowship, unfortunately, but we
Yeah,
aspire with
how are you
conducting.
coping? What's your coping mechanism?
Getting swindled into probably 5 other games,
Yeah,
honestly. But
fair enough. We do what we can.
yeah. I really like the fact that you bring a lot of the more casual people up here, because I like to hear from them, because they're the people who keep the game alive, you know?
No, I think it's really important. That's one of the things like that I think we really need to do a good job of is having. I know I wouldn't call you casual at all, but
Not really.
but we need to have both perspectives, right? But I also think
Yeah.
we need to, and this is why I think I'm really. Well, I think this is why I am really excited about having these conversations because we need to, I think, expose both perspectives and how they can kind of not necessarily work against each other. There's been some
Mhm.
feedback I've seen about, why don't we just get rid of the first 10 levels of difficulty? But we need to kind of talk about what that would do to other parts of the player base and how we kind of make sure that everyone has the best experience. Anyway, I want you to give
Um,
your feedback. What are your thoughts about the test?
I loved it. You know, there's hard for me to say like it's hard for me to say some bad things about it while there's a few. But generally I'd definitely put it up towards a 9 out of 10, you know. I woke up to play the game. You know, I pushed some of my stuff on my schedule back just so I could enjoy it more, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I grinded it out a lot. I played it literally every day besides the first day, even at how many hours I have in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the best things I loved about it was definitely the gearing. I think gearing's in a good place. You know, when you look at any other game nowadays, it takes a while to get to that end game gear. So
Yeah.
I personally think that's in a really good spot. Um, Bad things, I'd say I noticed that a lot of more of the casual players were having a hard time with queue times. And
Mm.
I personally can't put any input on that because I played with a team all of my times.
Yeah.
So, um, I wasn't even ready to be picked up right now. Like I was kind of I had my hand up, but
No, it's okay.
um,
No, I think that's a really
what
interesting point. So, can I just go back to something that you talked about before? You said that the gearing, it felt really good. And we have talked about that we want people to have a road to being gear capped that isn't, that it is attainable. But how would you feel if the current kind of pacing of gear was still to be the same over a longer hypothetical season? Let's say 3 or 4 months. Do you think you would still be playing that hero, 3 weeks after you'd gear capped it? Imagine there's months left. Is
Well,
there a risk there?
I mean, the only thing I can say to that is like I'm going to end up pushing all the way to the gear cap because that's just I like grindy stuff. You
Yep.
know, I like that endless grind to the top, and then after I reach that, I'm gonna be grinding leaderboards anyway.
Okay.
If there was longer time in the playtest, I probably would have played and geared other characters.
Yep.
But being there was a week, there's no way I could have did what I did on one character, more through. But if I had that longer time, I definitely think that it is in a good spot and you guys will take it in a good direction.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's again one of those things that we'll have to monitor as we kind of get into those live phases. Yeah. What?
The I was gonna say one other thing about the gearing. I know some people might go against this idea, but if you were to put in like I wouldn't say a quest system, but to where once you've completed a set amount of dungeons, you could pick a piece of gear. Not saying that you'd get like, a 66% socket, but just for like the safety of if you're not having a piece of gear.
Mhm. Yeah,
That's probably
yeah, we've talked about that a few times. I think that's interesting. We obviously that whole dynamic of people being completely gearless on a slot is something that we don't want people to, feel that they're just completely being slapped in the face by RNG. So yeah, definitely some work to be done there. Cool. No, I appreciate the feedback, man.
If I had to say one
Yeah,
negative thing,
please do.
I don't know why this was like this, but Terex, Mako's, and I can't think. Helena's kicks. They were all affected by the yellow gem, and Rhymes wasn't. Everything else, that's probably the number one thing. Like as a Rhyme player, my just seeing my kick, the longest kick, and not being affected by the gem path I chose just seemed kind of odd.
I mean, look, not everything was like lined up to be perfect in the test, right? It's
Yeah.
there's definitely things that we've come back and been like, well, that wasn't intended, because we haven't had a chance to test out these systems. So yeah, there's definitely lots of changes coming to those sorts of things. I mean, we want people to feel like there's not a situation where a certain hero was hard done by. I think it would probably be that was just an oversight, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say to the devs before I bring up someone else?
Just the overall balancing of gems. I feel like at the end of it, 2 of the gems sets really overshined the other 4.
Yeah.
But that's really all I could think about. I'd rather you bring in more casual players, you know.
Perfect. All right.
Well,
Cool. All right.
thank you for your time,
I'm going to
and
ask you
thanks for having me.
one more thing while I have you. If you
Yeah.
could add some type of hero to the game as a DPS player yourself, what kind of hero would you be looking for?
Oh,
Come on, you've thought about it.
Joe's probably staring at the screen wanting me to say gunslinger.
Yeah.
I think actually I haven't even thought about it.
Really?
Yeah, I haven't. Um, the heroes feel great in their own sense, but I don't think I can give an answer off the top of my head. I didn't think about it.
It's all right. You can DM me later. I
All
look
right.
forward to hearing about it. All right. Thanks so much, Death. Appreciate the feedback. Have a good rest of your
No,
day.
no problem. Thank you, you too.
Cheers. See ya. Yeah, I saw someone in chat, Plaska, saying, poor Hamish has to talk way longer than he intended to. I mean, I don't have to. I'm just enjoying it. I could have finished this 25 minutes. I mean, could have finished this after half an hour, but there'd be no point. This is so much fun. I do love you way too much. Lotus Ex Machina, you are correct. Yeah, there's obviously a lot of interesting discussions about what kind of heroes could come to the game. But that's the cool thing about the model that we're going for Fellowship with this hero-based system. We could, add whatever we want. I do want to quickly shout out. Okay. I need to make sure I get the name correct. But there are some really cool things happening on the fan art channel on Discord. Don't know if you saw, but Valis did a really cool character concept for Lysander and Dredge. If you haven't seen it, I think it's just so cool. This honestly made me so happy just to see that the community are already like, I wonder what we could create. And this, I mean, aside from the art that they've put together being incredible, so cool. Also, shout out to Talim for the really cool Sylvie fan art. Oh, I love seeing it. Honestly, so excited about what the community are doing. But yes, go and check it out if you haven't already. Okay, let's keep going. What else do we have here? So Faded saying a melee healer would be cool, a water-based healer, a shapeshifter class, a rogue assassin type coming, a trap rogue, a lance master. Okay, a bard. I would love a bard. People often are kind of in two ways about a bard. Do you know what I should do? I should strike up a deal with the team and be like, let me design a bard and we could have that as like a community project. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself, but how cool would that be? What if they let me make the music for the bard? I can do it. We can do it. We could do a bard. How cool would that be? All right, I'm getting way ahead of myself. But that would be sick. What if they let me voice him? What if I voiced and played the bard? I'm gonna pitch that to the team. We'll see if that can happen. I did voice the magistrate, and hopefully that audition I passed. We will see. Okay, let's bring up the next person. Who we got? Okay, I'm gonna roll my crappy dice. Oh, it's a critical 20. So I'm actually gonna go. If we roll the 20, we go right to the end. Crawfish pie. Crawfish.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Fantastic. Great avatar, by the way. A kitten with
Thank
headphones
you.
is 10 out of 10.
I'm a cat mom, so Pusheen is my heart.
I'm a cat mom too.
Nice.
I'm a lovely childless cat lady. I welcome you into the stream. How was your experience with the Fellowship Public Playtest?
It was amazing. I had heard, I wasn't like super caught up on Fellowship. I had heard, a little bit about it, and then when it came out for Next Fest, me and my friend group, we were obsessed. And despite everybody having work and other things that they had to do, if we had time to play games, we were playing Fellowship. So it was really exciting. We had all kind of had thoughts of like, man, if we could have like a dungeon crawler, like a team-based dungeon crawler that didn't have MMO aspects, that would be really perfect. And you guys did it. So.
Love that. How many hours do you think you played during the playtest?
Oh, I don't even have Steam up at the moment. It was limited because obviously it was a shorter playtest, and with everybody having their own lives and work and stuff going on, we were a little more limited than what we would normally be.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that we probably played on days that we could play, we probably played 4+ hours.
Yep.
And there was a day that we didn't play any at all. So we were up there. Steam is not opening for me very quickly, so sorry.
All right. So I kind of want to talk about that group experience that you had. I mean, we kind of talk about that, one of the things that we hear from people is that Fellowship is just great when you're playing with friends. Do you feel like in your group, what was kind of the main point of contention? Was there any kind of friction that you all felt in the experience?
Having assignments for kicks, I know that I think Death had mentioned that as Rhyme, having your kick be so much longer than everybody else's, but being a DPS, because my group, we everybody played a different like character. The other DPS was Tariq. So having to do kick assignments, and normally in like WoW, that's usually mostly falls on DPS, where the tank might sometimes pick it up instead. We found that was kind of where a lot of our lines got jumbled up, because all of our kicks were different cooldowns, and so we were sometimes getting caught up in things, especially in the higher levels, that were, I think we reached max 14. 14 plus 14 is where we ended up kind of stalling out. We were getting caught up in a lot of like entirely kickable, meant to be kicked, like AoE damage that would like wipe our entire team. And then, obviously we can't push for placing on the leaderboard at that point. And once we wiped, not being able to necessarily find out what certain abilities that enemies were doing, specifically bosses, we were constantly trying to figure out that like what the mechanic was that we were missing, and we would sometimes have several wipes, especially on the longer like the longer maps where you had 3 bosses, trying to figure out, obviously you're not going to necessarily always be able to rush to a specific boss to figure out what the mechanic is, except if you've wiped. Having some sort of like catalog or annex of like what that like particular ability, at least what type of damage it does, something like that was something, it would be something I think that would have helped us tremendously, rather than just like having to like kind of brute force it. What are we not seeing? What are we not noticing? Like, I do like that a lot of the mechanics were kind of a little bit esoteric, that we really did have to think about it, solve a puzzle. I really love that. Part of what I liked about like Season of Discovery with WoW was that like the meta was completely turned on its head. You don't really necessarily know what's going to be different in some of these instances. Having to work it out, having to actually try to figure it out was really good. But there are some aspects that it was like we couldn't necessarily completely figure it out because we were too caught up in trying to like figure out what the mechanic was, or doing other mechanics, and something would happen, and we wouldn't be able to kind of brute force through that necessarily.
Cool. That's a really, really good point. It's we've seen that feedback as well. Like, do we include some sort of, Pokedex style thing in the game, right?
Or even in like the damage meter, or not the damage meter, but like the what happened to me fight index, having something there besides just like how much DPS you took, I think might be helpful. So you can kind of read the log.
Yeah, that's a really good point. On that note, was there I will ask you 2 questions. Did you have a favorite boss that you felt telegraphed everything quite well, and then conversely, one that you were like, that's just frustrating, and least favorite?
We really, at least, I'm not necessarily sure about my entire team, but I really liked I'm sorry about not knowing the map names right off the top of my head, but the one map where you're fighting the like mermaid siren and you have to lash yourself to the pole in the middle. I really liked a lot of her mechanics. I really thought that we were pretty locked in for most of that. There were a couple of things, Sailor's Abyss, that's it. The ghost hands that come out of the ground, those were kind of tripping us up because they were circling that mast, and when we had to like lash onto it, they were already there, and that was, I died a couple of times to that. I think there was the one that I think we had the most trouble with was there was someone on one of the ice maps. I think it was the 3 boss ice map. Where one of the bosses, we just couldn't figure out exactly what like some of those mechanics were even necessarily doing. Like, it was a long cast, and obviously something that we were supposed to be like figuring out. It was a mechanic, but we ended up just sort of like, if we can do this, we can do this, and if we can't, like, just run it again.
Was it the golem boss? Like ice golem?
The ice golem boss, there was a mechanic that we did figure out, but it ended up we were just taking too much damage that we couldn't out heal it. But the ice golem was a lot of fun. It was we figured out, arrows in means stand in the circle, but those circles were doing too much ticking damage. And if it was across the map, like I was Rhyme, so I ended up getting those orbs following me all over the place.
Yeah.
And if I had a couple of those and we weren't able to like destroy them, I couldn't necessarily always make it to the circle. And I know that it seemed like it was like spread out damage across your whole team. So if I couldn't make it, they would wipe.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's. I think I like the mechanics in that one, but I think there are a lot of things that you know,
It stacked a little too much, I think. There was just too much going on, perhaps,
it can
that we
get
were
away
able
from
to.
you a lot, like that fight in particular.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, this is really, really good feedback. Thank you so much, Crawfish. Was there anything else you wanted to say to the devs before I move on to our next caller?
No, actually, you guys are doing a great job. I was really impressed with how fleshed out the beta felt. It felt like an entire game, even though I know that it wasn't the entire game. You had a lot more coming, but you guys are doing a great job, and I'm just upset that I can't play more.
Okay, yeah, okay. That's we're happy to have that problem, but yeah, I really appreciate the feedback. I hope you have an awesome rest of your evening.
You as well. Say hello
Cool.
to your cats for me.
I will. All right. See ya. Bye. Well, thanks for the raid, Zozo Oats. Really, really appreciate that. Okay, I can probably look. Let's go up to lunchtime. We're here. I can make sure that we bring in a few more people if we're up for that. I'm just sad we're not going to get a chance to get to everyone today. But this is really, really fun. Okay. Got a 9, so we're aiming for the middle here. Let's bring in Visper. Hello, Visper.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going great. I was not expecting to be picked.
Yes, so a ninja called you. Fantastic. How what's been going on for you? How has life been since the public playtest ended?
Empty and bereft of joy because I can't play Fellowship.
A huge, huge void. Yeah, you're not
Yeah.
alone. I'm finding ways to cope. Like I said, I've been trying my best to make dice and failing. I've got a lot to learn. I don't know how you're
That's really
coping.
cool.
What's been
I'm a
going
D&D
on for
player
you?
too, so I also collect dice.
Okay, cool. Well, maybe at some point I kind of want to make some like fellowship themed dice.
Yes.
And then like
Oh
I
my
don't know.
god, make Sylvie dice.
And then we
with
can give them away.
butterflies.
Oh no, I know. Yeah, I saw that you can get like little butterfly inclusions. So maybe we could
Yes.
we could make like one blue D20 and then all the rest are pink.
Oh my, I love that. Yeah, astounding.
All right.
I
cool.
love that.
All right. Anyway,
Open an Etsy shop. Okay.
Yeah, I will do that. What so did you play Sylvie during the test? Is that what happened?
Yes, I did. There was another girl in my group. We fought over Sylvie because she's the cutest. Yeah, I played. I didn't play as much as other people. I only played about 16 hours over
interesting.
the last 3 days because that's when I heard about the game.
Cool. How did you hear about it?
One of my friends, actually the DM from my D&D group, had seen it, I think, on Steam Next, and had told us about it and asked if we wanted to play. So
Cool.
yeah, I joined up.
Fantastic. Have you played other kind of games similar to this, or where were you kind of coming from in your video game repertoire?
I play mostly strategy games and RPGs and cozy games. Like I played a lot of Baldur's Gate 3. I never actually played WoW, but I did play some MMOs many, many years ago when I was a teenager. I don't have the energy for an MMO anymore. So
I get you.
One of the things I really liked about Fellowship was it did feel like it really respected your time.
Cool. No, that's really cool. I'm glad to have someone with your perspective. Did you play the tutorial?
Yes, I played through the tutorial, which was, I hate tanking so much. I can't even tell you. So it was a bit of a trial, but it did explain things really well.
Interesting. Yeah, because that's one of the things. I mean, obviously we have it set up to be the tank in the tutorial right now. I kind of, and this is my personal feedback to the devs, I would hope that in the future we can also make tutorials for all types of playstyles, right? So
Yes.
you kind of know going into one of these games what kind of role you gravitate towards, I would imagine. Was that true
Yeah.
for you?
Yes, absolutely. Definitely a main healer, but I did
Okay.
also have to fight with a friend who also wanted to heal.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Can you think of any solutions for that? We've had it brought up that, maybe once we get out there, obviously in a test, it's a very different environment and you want people to jump straight in. But someone posited the other day, like, do we make it so that to be able to access a certain class of heroes, whether it's tanks, healers, or DPS, that you have to complete the tutorial for that? Is that something that would be a positive or negative for you?
yeah, I think that would be a good idea. I do think, or I mean, at least at the start of the game, it would be nice if you could choose your tutorial, and that way you wouldn't have to sort of sit and be like, oh well, I can't play yet because I have to do this other 3 tutorials. If you could be like, I know that I want to play a DPS, so I'm going to choose that tutorial right at the start, and then as soon as you get into the game, you're ready to go. And also as a bonus, you've learned what some of your abilities do, and how to interrupt things.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think that would be helpful.
Cool.
I do
What?
have a couple of thoughts about sort of the onboarding
Please. Yes,
process.
that's what I was wanting to ask about. How did you find it?
Okay. um, I will say that a lot of people have already mentioned really good things about the party finder. I was one of the people who definitely struggled with the queue, queuing up as a healer,
Yep.
and then later on, even queuing with a healer and a tank. We
Mm.
were waiting over half an hour, sometimes 40 minutes to get in. And we had to go to the Discord to find people in order for us to actually progress and go to, um, you know, 1+ and so on. Um, and so that was tricky, especially because we're very introverted. So both of us were like, we don't wanna go and meet new people. But we did. The people were very nice. But yeah, it was definitely tricky because I mean I started the game and I read all the stuff, I did the tutorial, and then I just kind of sat there in the queue staring at the screen for half an hour with
Hmm.
nothing to do because
Yeah.
you can't progress unless you get into the dungeon.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of anticlimactic.
Yeah. I don't think you're alone in that. That's a really, really good
Yeah.
point. Like I kind of mentioned earlier in the call, the group finder for us is going to be such a huge focus on making sure that we can get
Yeah.
people into a play session as quickly as possible. But you brought up a really interesting point, um, I guess from the introvert perspective, because we've had people kind of talk about, what other ways to communicate with people do we have lined up? I know, people use Discord a lot and that sort of thing for voice chat. From your perspective, what would be your ideal situation for in-game communication and either options or, you know, shutting yourself off from various things and that sort of thing? Like, because I think that's a really interesting dynamic for a game like this.
I think for sort of more difficult content, there's often not much getting around the fact that you have to be able to talk to people,
Mm,
um, as things get more difficult. But I also think there are definitely times and days where you just don't have the energy for that and you don't want to talk to a human and you just want to play a game.
yeah.
And it would be nice if there was I mean, like you have some great things already. The ability to push a V and have your interrupt cooldown show next to the character that you intend to interrupt is great. I did find it very difficult to access and use the marks for
Mm,
like pinging parts of the map and marking people. As a healer, it was difficult when I had two of the same DPS in my group because I wouldn't know which health bar corresponded to which Tariq or which rhyme. And so I
mm,
didn't know who to run over to put my flower next to because like I didn't know which one was injured because there's no health bars above their head.
yeah.
So just the ability to be able to mark one of my DPS so that they had a symbol on, and I knew, oh, that's that guy. That would have been
Mhm.
really helpful. Um, so I think making the marking system more intuitive and easier to access and use would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm sure you've got a lot of planned changes to the dungeon queue party finder. I do think one thing that would be really helpful would be if there was some sort of incentive for, like, Final Fantasy 14 still has that, I think, the daily roulette system, where essentially people are incentivized to do content that isn't relevant to them anymore, like the main story content, because it requires a group full of people and there are new players who need to do that in order to progress. And I think it would be great if you could incentivize players who are past that point still queuing up and being eligible to go into those like starter +0 and early runs, just to help new players who are not going to be sitting there waiting for their first queue to pop. Otherwise, they're gonna zone out.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. This one that we've brought up as well. How do we incentivize people to do, you know, quick play or help out
Yeah.
the people who are just joining in? I think that's a really, really good point. So if you ever have any ideas about incentives, I'd love to hear them.
Awesome.
Cool.
I guess I have two more quick things I'd like to
Oh,
mention if
please.
I can.
Yeah, no, go for it.
One would be that I thought the RNG was also pretty punishing even from the start.
Okay.
I got up to +13s while being carried and +10s kind of comfortably during my playtime. I never managed to get pants or chest, and neither did one of my friends in my group in that time. So we had the starter ones. And I never got any of the green bars, but I got quite a lot of purple bars. So that was interesting, but not very helpful for me.
Yeah.
Um, and again, it's a small thing. It was a very small sample size. We could have just been unlucky. But it would be nice if at least you could get on the train of having at least like level 2 gear that you can be upgrading,
Yeah.
as a sort of guaranteed thing. That would be helpful.
Yeah.
And the last thing, I don't know if anybody else is bothered by this. It could just be me.
Okay.
So, take it with a grain of salt. But it's 2025 and it feels weird to me that, like, if I want to play, say, I prefer playing as a male character, but I wanted to play a tank, I couldn't.
Sure.
Feels weird to have classes and roles be gender locked. I understand that the characters are like distinct characters and have
Yeah.
their own designs, but I would absolutely love it if you could at least change the gender of the character, and you didn't feel quite as locked into like a specific because, like, again, it's 2025.
Yeah.
And also I feel like this game is appealing more to the sort of WoW MMO crowd,
Mhm.
which is you're very used to investing in your character and being able to customize your avatar.
Yeah.
And I feel like this thing of hopping in with a very distinct character is way more MOBA.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a bit of a clash there. So I
No, I
wanted to
mean,
mention that.
yeah, I appreciate you bringing it up. It's a piece of feedback that, I mean, people see it everywhere, right? Yeah, it's probably one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we get.
Oh,
I think
okay.
it's a really interesting thing. I think partially I absolutely see where you're coming from. We have a very reduced roster right now, so there's a lot of
Yeah.
reasons why I think that that feeling is exacerbated right now. Um, I think that that's going to become less and less of an issue as our hero roster increases. Well, in fact, I know it will be. I think while I understand people's kind of um feelings around other games and having character creation and that sort of stuff, it's such a huge thing. I don't see that it would be ever a part of Fellowship as it is, but I totally understand where people are coming from. But yeah, that's a big ongoing point of discussion. I would imagine that we'll have to address. I'm not saying that that will ever be included in our game, but it's, I think, worth bringing into the conversation about why people feel that way. What can we do? What within our framework in terms of making people feel that player agency of attaching to a character or a hero that they really like. Yeah.
Great. And I'm glad that it's and that the idea of like more diverse heroes is also something that's being discussed. That's great.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. There's yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff coming down the pipe. So you'll see some great stuff coming soon. But yeah, thank you, Visper. I'm going to try and knock out a couple more calls. But yeah, I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
the feedback. Thanks you so much.
Thank you.
Cool. Have a good one.
Tim?
Bye. Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting discussion. I know a lot of people, wanting Adios back in the roster. That'll happen at some point. It's an interesting discussion about like gender swapping or providing multiple genders for each hero. That's just such a huge investment, right? From the developer standpoint. Would you prefer more options that way or more heroes? It's an interesting thing to keep talking about. I often use like Dota as an example here. It took us how long to get a gender swapped version of Anti-Mage or a gender swapped version of Phantom Assassin. And there are a few heroes in Dota that you can do that with. But yeah, if people can count them for me, I'm trying to think of other ones. Phantom Assassin, Anti-Mage. Who else has that? Yeah. Matthew Chan saying, yeah, just going to say I'd pay for skins. There's a lot of these things are related to how successful our game will be. Like I've said, anything is possible with resources. Okay. Like I said, I'm going to try and blast through a couple more calls. Let's bring in Shang Otsuka. Hey,
what's
Shang,
going
can you
on?
hear me? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Sorry, I've got a few minutes left. Let's try and blast through stuff in like 4 minutes. Tell me about how your experience was in the Fellowship playtest.
It was amazing. I did the alpha and then the playtest. Tanked both. Did Helena main first time and Mako this time. And honestly, I love the rotations. I just love everything about it pretty much.
Cool. What was the? Let's just keep it simple. Best part and then worst part of your experience.
The worst part, I guess, would be kind of like everybody else was saying, was the gearing thing. But honestly, I think taking back from WoW, a good option for that would be like a token system, like low amount of tokens. You still have to grind through to get the tokens if you don't have your piece, but eventually you can buy what would be, like a scaled down version. And that way people would be required to keep playing. They'd want to play more and it'd feel more, they'd get the dopamine hit eventually.
Yeah, I think that's a really great idea. It's about that thing of respecting people's time, right? And like our last caller, Vesper, was it, saying that, yeah, having 2 empty slots that deep into your experience, that doesn't feel good.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, you can see here, you already have our time. There's still 100 people left in here. Like, we're here. So, but it was manageable without the pieces, but it would be nice to be able to get them. Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate that. All right, so that was the gearing side of things, probably the biggest friction that you felt. What about the what was the best thing or the biggest surprise or biggest positive you took away from the test?
It was a lot of it was quick. I'm a stay-at-home retired veteran. I have 4 kids. Sometimes I can only get on for a little bit. That's why I quit playing WoW. And ever since I had seen this and I signed up for Alpha, I was enamored and in love. The adventures are amazing because I can just sit down and do one real quick.
Yeah.
And then go get some juice. And the system of having them split is great. It's really just a fantastic idea.
Yeah, honestly, the adventures was something that surprised me. I thought that we'd see adventures be like a nice little thing to have, and then most people would be drawn to the dungeons. But I think one of the unique selling points of Fellowship, like you say, is this adventure experience that you can jump on really quick. Whether it's in between stuff, it's that, I don't know, I felt this, and this is kind of my own feedback for the team. The adventure thing being open and on my menu meant I could do just one more. I could be like, oh yeah, I've got 15 minutes. So that was really cool. Yeah.
It's game breaking when it's, you know, either that or I can hop off and play a quick round of something else. I'm gonna stay on Fellowship and play around.
Love that. Nice. Yeah, like I said, I don't have a whole lot of time. I'll give you like, is there anything that you want to say to the devs before I jump on to the next call?
You know, keep up the good work. I want a cloth tank though. Give me a cleric or something.
A cleric tank. Interesting.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I've been tanked for life since vanilla, so
No,
something good, something new.
Yeah. Perfect. Love to hear it. Thank you so much, Shang. I will yeah, I hope to see you around on Discord.
Oh, always. Take
Cool.
care.
Have a good one. Bye bye.
You too.
All right. I've only got time for one more. I feel really bad. Okay. I'm gonna leave it up to the dice to give me my next. Okay. So what have we got? 9. 1, 2. All right. Here we go. Titty B. Hey, Titty, can you hear me?
Oh wow, was not expecting. I usually lose lotteries, so
I think like most people, right?
yeah.
Yeah. No, you're going to be the last voice on here, so you've got a responsibility to not derail the train, but tell us your truth.
So yeah, I've played a lot of variety games. Played a lot of WoW though. Did cutting edge rating and Legion and BFA, but then got into Mythic Plus. But faded away from that, just kind of the main reasons everyone else. I mean, I still play it. At least I did up until Fellowship. Haven't touched it since. Just for the quick background, but I think to kind of to answer some of the biggest questions you've been asking people before. I think one of the questions you asked Death about what is going to continue people, like once you hit that gear cap, like you're month, 2 months, 3 months in, what is going to keep the player playing? I think there's like a lot of focus on gear. You're constantly reminded of your eye level and all these things. You need the gear, you need the gem. And one thing I didn't feel like I was being reminded of enough as a player was my mythic dungeon rate or the dungeon rating. I'm sure you guys probably have plans of different UIs and menus to bring in, but I think that's a huge thing to really grasp that player, because I mean those of us that play Mythic Plus tough, we hit our quote unquote soft gear cap not too far into the season, and after that we're just fighting for the rank. And I think having that reminded you're a score a lot more would incentivize that. I noticed like when you mouse over a character, you'll see their eye level before or above their rating, and I think it was bigger font too. I think small changes like swapping that remind the player that the score is what you're playing for.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's kind of nebulous right now, and like there's maybe less things to chase. I mean, like I mentioned, I play a lot of Dota, and I was once like got into like legend rank, which is basically just a representation of your MMR. I would love to see something like that similarly for Fellowship, where you have a little extra little flash on your profile. Do you know what I mean? Like
exactly.
Yeah. No, you're not alone.
That rank 1 title you get in WoW, like that's what those are what really make you start starving for it in the last few weeks of a season. You'll get right back in there. Even if you took a break, you're back into the game again, trying to fight for your rank 1 title. So little things like that, like, maybe not titles, but something like you're saying, a little flashy thing. Just something to keep the player reminded that the score is what you're playing for, because then the gear becomes secondhand. It's just a means to the score.
I agree. Good point.
I think one of my favorite things that you guys have done though is a direction of like homogenization towards the different classes. It's amazing. It seems like you guys have literally been secretly listening to my static group in Mythic Plus for so long. Just all those ideas we have. Oh, what if they change this? What if they did that? And you guys just implement it here. It's amazing. I'd even go further in leaning into it further, like removing these stun. I'm sure people are gonna be pissed to hear this. I'd say like stuff like removing the stun from the priest and giving both healers softer CC that doesn't stop kicks in the form of like roots, slows, or a blind. And then keeping kicks off of them, keeping like someone mentioned the kick on the longer kick on a range caster. I understand trying to bring them all flattened out, that would probably be, I guess, a difference in understanding. Like, you get into design issues there because certain bosses, like, they're designed to make you put that correct kick first. And I think you guys have just done a good job about the homogenization in general, just keeping things going. And I'd say lean into that direction. It feels really, really good, at least from my perspective. One of the biggest gripes, I would say, it was constantly changing. But I mean, I guess I'm more of a I am your demographic. I am the niche player you guys are looking for. So I get more nitpicky. It's not the general stuff, but it'd be like, you guys have probably heard it time and time again. But I think it's a crucial thing is click casting, vertical healing frames, and custom casting bars. I think those are huge to change the way, like, this simple things that change the player and make it feel like it's their home when they log in.
Absolutely. We agree. Yeah, that stuff's all on the list. Can I just, as a little bit of a thought experiment, and this will be the last kind of thing, a question to you, but also to chat. In a hypothetical world, well, it won't be hypothetical at some point, but imagine we have a roster of heroes that's a lot bigger. Do you think it would be bad if, some people have less of a kit related to, roots and crowd control and slows and all these sorts of things? So people would have to prioritize trading off their group composition or that sort of stuff. Or do you feel like, for example, every DPS should have the same functionality, just represented differently?
Yeah, I like that. It felt like that was kind of the direction you guys slightly went in. Like, obviously you should have burstier DPS versus more flatted out DPS, but when it comes to like utilities type things, I like seeing the homogenized stuff. It creates less of like weird hard enforced metas. Oh no, we have to play this comp because we're not gonna, it's like, are we gonna have the damage for this? I don't know, maybe, let's find out. But it's not this hard set incentive that we have to play this comp because this has this and this has that.
Interesting.
The homogenization, I think, allows for a lot more of your general casual player base to play around with their comps, and they're not going to be told what to play by a website. That would be my feeling, at least.
Cool. No, I think it's a really interesting discussion. I really appreciate that viewpoint. Oh wow,
Yeah.
we are way over time. Teddy, I just want to appreciate. Is there anything, like, I'll give you 30 more seconds. Is there anything else you want to say to the dev team before we wrap this up?
A ranged DPS that throws hatchets, something like, I forget what the character's name when in Heroes of the Storm, but the range that would just throw hatchets, and the more damage you do, the more he would ramp up his attack speed. It doesn't have to be that mechanic, but I think
like a
seeing a
frenzy
range that
barbarian
holds
kind of thing.
hatchets.
Yeah.
Yes, you don't see that in any of like the current MMOs right now. It'd be really cool to see that.
Yeah. Vestus is saying that's Zul'jin. Yeah.
Yeah, Zul'jin. Yes, that was him.
Very interesting. I love the frenzy fantasy, so that's a nice bit of feedback. All right. Thank you, Teddy. Thank you so much for your feedback. I hope to see you on
Thank you,
Discord.
guys.
All right.
Awesome game, by the way. Love it.
Thank you so much. Wow. Okay. Wow, 2 hours just flew by. Have fun to all of those that are going to watch the VOD on YouTube. If you made it this far on YouTube, I want to hear about it below. We need some sort of code. Actually, if you did make it this far on YouTube, just let me know what kind of hero you would like to see added to our roster. That'd be cool. All right. Everyone, you really have overwhelmed me, I would say, with just how this sounds condescending, well behaved everyone was. But really, that went really well. I feel very, very happy about it, and we have all passed the test that we can do this again. So absolutely fantastic. Really, really, really happy. Okay, we are going to leave it there. I will, look forward to kind of continuing on this discussion on Discord with all of you. All right, have a great rest of your day, and onwards and upwards. All right, see you later. Bye.